Hey Diego, how are you?
Good, Shane. How are you?
Good, good. Just got back from Alaska. Went up there for a week.
Alaska, man, that's a
Uh,
good trip. How was it?
Good, good. Didn't see any igloos or anything, but it was good. Good.
That's only in the movies.
Yeah, really. Yeah, yeah, great. Yeah, yeah, it's great. It's a beautiful state. Oh my gosh, such stunning.
Yeah, how was the weather?
Good. It was odd. It was like 85 degrees when I first got there, and then pretty cold once I left. But the weather's really weird right now up there. It's kind of crazy. Kind of
How,
like
how cold?
when I left, it got down in like the low 50s and during the day. But
Mm.
it depends on where you are. The further north you go right now, the warmer it is, which makes no sense. But
Ah,
yeah, it's kind of
and
crazy.
that's summertime, huh?
Yeah, yep, yep, yep. I've been there before in the near end of late fall, and it's pretty chilly and snowing and dark at like 3 p.m. It's crazy.
Mm.
Interesting place. I couldn't live there, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, I see that a lot of people are moving that
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah,
As
absolutely.
as as the planet is getting warmer, that's gonna probably a cool
Yeah,
place
more
to be.
appealing. Yep, yep, yep,
Who
absolutely.
knows?
Yeah, you never know. Yep, yep, yep. So how you been?
Doing well, thank you. Like we had a discussion earlier, this is a good topic that we both benefit from because we have been working on this, applying these principles and this knowledge from Dr. Covey on 7 habits of highly effective people. You told me that you went through this in college. I've been reading this book over and over and over. I can show you here that I got my pages
Awesome.
labeled because I keep going back
Right, right.
to review and trying to understand better every time. And
Sure.
it's so beneficial.
Yeah, that's
So I would like you to share your story and then I can share my story because this book has changed my life for the better.
yeah, that's awesome. I when I was in college, I was selected for a fairly selective program called Lead Scholars, and just based upon leadership programs that I started when I was in high school, I was selected for a program called Lead Scholars. And it's basically a service organizations and there's classes you take and sort of whole program of part of the university. And this is hammered constantly, the 7 highly effective habits. Um, and it just was constantly of every component of the program, we were constantly discussing it from leadership style to how to manage people to entrepreneurship. I mean, it was just always discussed in pretty much every class, every module, I mean, I think at one point we had a whole class on it. It was pretty interesting. It's been a while now, but it was pretty interesting, the applications of it and whatnot, and how applicable it is in all facets of life and whatnot. So it's definitely useful.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
I read this book for the first time in Spanish. I was still living in Colombia,
Wow.
late 90s. But I
Yeah.
didn't get much out of it because I was still kind of early in my entrepreneurial um, research and just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was part of a multi-level marketing company, Amway,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they always recommended us a book every month for us to read. And like every month, we read a book, but I didn't get much out of it the first time. However, in 2016, I had the opportunity to go to a workshop and not just to read the book, but understand the concepts, the principles, and the values and everything that Dr. Covey presents in this book. And that kind of got me better because I was advanced in my businesses
Sure.
and I read the book again. And back in 2018, I read the book and I went to the workshop for a second time, and I was better prepared, understood much better the principles, and that's when I met Pip Stelic, our mentor,
Right.
and so I was able to put things together. Like Pip said, when the student is ready, the teacher shows up, and that happened right away. And so that's it's been very beneficial. Back
Absolutely.
in 2016, when I went to this first workshop, I was looking for answers. I was looking for a way to get out of a situation that I was pointing out to my wife, to my bosses, to my company, to everybody. And then I realized that when you point out looking for blaming somebody, you have three fingers pointing back to you. And that's what the book is about. It's about changing us first to be able to change the world. Like Gandhi was a famous, that was his famous quote.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's all
So again, this is a life-changing book in my personal experience.
right.
And we had this conversation and we said, why not share this with our audience because they can benefit from this. So
Absolutely.
let's go through the 7 habits
Mm.
briefly. The first habit is be proactive. What being proactive means to you, Shane?
Yeah, excuse me. To me, it's just being, taking responsibility for your actions. It's really trying to be proactive. No, just trying to anticipate things prior to them occurring, whether it's personal endeavors, whether it's something with your family, and just sort of taking charge or something and sort of anticipating it rather than just letting a circumstance happen, if you will, whether that's business,
Yeah,
life, what.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. One way for me to understand concepts sometimes is looking for the opposite. Another book writer that I follow, and I've been following him on YouTube and many other channels on social media, is Dr. Deepak Chopra. And he always has an example of contrast. We learn by contrast. So he says, for example, if you find a person who's been blind from being a baby that never seen the light, try to explain to that person what darkness means. So proactive for me is kind of difficult. It's kind of until I realize that there's an opposite word, which is reactive.
Right.
So reactive people are kind of like the people who are watching the news, complaining about the government, complaining about the president and the weather, the whatever, things that they have no control of. And that makes their mind, going into, so many turbulences and thoughts that are just a waste of energy.
Right.
So being proactive is putting your mind into work on things that you have control of, your future, your present, your business, your family, and your community, people that are depending or you are part of this group, and you have more control instead of being wasting your energy on things that you have no control. So that's basically like being proactive for me is coming from the inside out, projecting what we want to do in the future, but starting now, taking action. That's the key. We have to take action now if we want to have a better future, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Sounds very proactive. No, absolutely.
Exactly. That's why it is number one.
Right.
So number two, we have this conversation many times. Number two, begin with the end in mind. What was your take from that?
Yeah, for me, I think it's always sort of imagining what the future looks like, imagining what your goals are, imagining just creating really a mental image. I don't almost want to call it a fantasy, but like a dream or a picture of what you really envision your goal to be and how to really not only achieve it, but what the actual end result will be. It's really what I would interpret that as for
Yeah, I
a
think
personal life.
yeah, dreaming is it's a good word, or visualizing, kind of looking into the future and visualizing what we want to see in our reality, because that's how we change our personal reality to bring the reality that we want in our future.
Right, absolutely.
And it's also good like having a map. It's like if you're gonna start driving, you want to have a map to know where you're going. Otherwise, you're going to be just going around in circles.
Right.
And, that's what sometimes we do, not realizing that we're just going around and around and not being effective because that's the key. Being effective is different than being efficient. You can go in circles and being efficient, but you're not going anywhere because you're not being effective.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. That's,
What about put first things first?
yeah, I think that's just meaning to really prioritize or sort of, what's a better word than prioritize? It's a pretty good one, but really just organize or prioritize your tasks, your I'm gonna say vision, but really what your needs are or what your objectives are going forward. Whether it's a simple task, day-to-day task for life, whether it's for a business, whether it's long-term goals, just making sure you have a plan, making sure that you're just prioritizing those plans and prioritizing things so that you're not all over the place and you're not working on 6 projects and nothing ever happens, if you will. You're really making sure that we're have an objective, you're fulfilling those goals, fulfilling those needs, and sort of staying on track, if you will.
Exactly, exactly. For me, prioritizing, that's a key word because when people tell me I don't have time, my hearing system translates that into this is not my priority.
Yeah,
So if we have a project and you're telling me I have no time for it, that means you have other priorities. So why do I have to make you my priority? Right? So putting first things first means that we have to find a common ground to work together and be a team players.
right.
And so that's what takes us. That's why that is the third habit that is going to be making you ready to go into the second level of these habits, that is being a team player, because the next three are exactly that, being a team player. So you're going to have to think win-win,
Right.
and in that is 95% of the people out there think that if you want to win, somebody has to lose. Or
Right.
if you want to make people happy, you have to lose, because if they lose, they're not going to be happy.
The
And
trade-off.
we compromise. Exactly. We give up our win to let others win, just to keep the friendship, just to keep the relationship. But that
Right.
makes us losers, and we're not going to get anywhere if we're not winning. So we have to get to an agreement that is a win-win or no deal. And real estate, that's important, because we want to make multiple deals. We want to make multiple businesses together. We are partners in this company, and we're building relationships, not to make one deal, not to make two or three, is to make multiple for the rest of our life.
And I
But
think
you
too,
have to
oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna say it's also a win-win when you think about how it helps clients, whether it's someone who can't afford to buy a home or whether it's someone who
Exactly.
needs to find a rental for a mobile home. So it certainly benefits even to people who aren't your direct partner, if you will, or a direct relationship. Even there's other win-wins there as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, you have to think win-win, and you have to put yourself on the other person's situation, and evaluate, are they winning? Because if they're not winning, it's better not to make a deal.
Right, right, absolutely.
And we have to win too, because what's the purpose to be in business? The IRS is going to evaluate your books, and it's going to say, you're not making profit. This is not a business. This is a hobby. Shut it down.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
that's very, very good.
yeah,
Then the number 5 is seek first to understand and then to be understood.
yeah.
So the good Lord gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. That's what Pip says all the time, right? So man, that's so important. When you
Oh, yeah.
stop talking and you pay more attention, and people always says too that we're not in sales, we are in service. So when you're listening to people's problems, what he says, the bigger the problem, the bigger the paycheck. So we turn ourselves into service, and we listen to people's problems, and we fix their problems, we solve their problems. That's a win-win-win, and that's that's a way for us to have income, passive income, active income, portfolio income, all sources of income, because we're always solving somebody else's problems.
Well, and it applies to both purchasing properties and also just day-to-day operations, whether you're maintaining a park or anything like that. It can certainly be beneficial to everyone.
Exactly. So you see, that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to money, there are two problems. I know people that are so poor, so poor that all they have is money. And they have so much money that it becomes a problem. They don't know what to do with it. And we're finding deals that we can present to them as an opportunity for an investment. They have that money under the mattress or in a bank account that is giving them 0.00025% interest. And we present deals for them to make 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15% interest. And at the same time, we are solving the other side of the problem for the people who don't have the money.
Right.
And the people who don't have the money, that means they can't buy a house because they don't have the down payment or the deposit to get in a property and do the rent to own. And so we're solving both sides of the equation, and we are in the middle, like making a sandwich. We are the meat in the middle, making profit, but solving both sides of the problems on both sides of the equation.
Right, right, absolutely. Absolutely. Totally makes sense. And it's like you said, it applies to a lot of things, not just business partners, but a lot of the different stages of that are absolutely applies.
Right. And especially for the real estate, that's our interest here.
Right.
And what about synergizing?
Yeah, that one I think is just using your own strengths, but also your team members. So I think when you have, say I'm good at online research and you're good at cold calling for phone calls, I think really just trying to leverage your strengths, but also making sure that we're leveraging the strengths of others on your team and sort of, yes, you're independent, but at the same time, using your interdependence, if you will, on each other for building a better team, building a better product, and a better service for your customers and yourselves. So it's really relying on one another for your strengths and weaknesses, but at the same time, improving each other, if you will.
That's a perfect example. When I was going through this program in 2016, and at that time my son was playing the violin with the Philharmonic Orchestra at high school, and they had a trip to Austria,
Oh, wow.
and they were going to perform at 4 different venues in 4 different cities, and he was raising money. He was doing the fundraising for that trip, and so we went to restaurants and to the mall and outside of some grocery stores. He was allowed to play his violin and get some change for his trip. And when he was playing solo, his violin sounded beautiful, sounded really good. But sometimes he will bring some other friends from the school to play as a duet or quartet, and just a duet, like having a second violin or having a viola playing with him, or a cello. The sound was so rich
Mhm.
that's what I understood the concept of this synergize, because he was playing solo, and let's say he will make $100 because his music was nice and pretty. But when he was in a duet, he was able to charge 300, 400.
Mhm.
So, and the book says, synergizing is when 1 + 1 is more than 2, is equals 3, 4, 5, 10, because it multiplies, it makes more out of what one person individually will do.
Right.
So bringing that to our new reality, which is real estate, yeah, when you're an expert on something that you've been doing for many years, instead of me having to learn that from the beginning, I can look into my talent and I can add that to the equation to make it better and expand our business faster.
Absolutely. No, totally.
And so, and finally, we have sharpened the saw. What that means to you?
To me, it's really just keeping yourself sharp, no pun intended. Continuous education. It is just keeping yourself at the forefront of whatever industry you're in. So whether it's attending in classes like PIP or doing something like continuing education, maybe through a university or just really staying focused, attending industry conferences, things like that. It's just helpful to really stay focused on the craft that you're in, whether it's real estate or RV parks or some of the real estate or some of the RV park conferences that I've gone to have been great just to stay engaged with the industry, see where things are going. There's a lot of continuing education, and you don't necessarily have to go to an event, but it's certainly helpful. There's a lot of things online, things like that. It's just really trying to stay ahead of the curve and really see what's going on around you, if you will.
That's a perfect example. And if you see in this image that is part of the book also, it is outside like a circle, right? So we just go around and around. And what that means is we start being dependent and we go through the first three habits for a private victory and we become independent. And then we become team players. We start going through the next three habits for the public victory. So team player, that makes us interdependent.
Yep.
But then when we get here, we can't get comfortable. We have to go back to the beginning, back to the basics, because we at some point we become dependent on the team. And we need to always go back to the beginning. But the benefit, like you say, continue education, continue going to seminars and reading books and getting coaching from our mentors and personal coaches. We are sharpening the saw. We keep sharp, we keep that mindset and we keep that mission that we have established
Yep.
when we thought about beginning with the end in mind, knowing that we're not getting distracted. And at the same time, every time we go in a full circle, what we're doing is we are expanding the circle of influence. So we have more people listening to what we're doing because every time they can see the progress that we're making with our companies.
Friends and
Because
network.
the more we do, yes, exactly. The network is our net worth. That's key. The more people we have involved in our circle, the more money or more access to money we have.
That's a really good point. Definitely. Definitely.
So this is key to understand that when we are newborn babies, we are dependent. If we don't have a father or mother or somebody to take care of us, we just die.
Right.
But at some point, we need to become independent. And most likely around 18, 20, we should be kind of independent. And then we go to a higher level, becoming team players to be interdependent. So this is the key. We want to be interdependent. We don't want to be a problem. We want to be part of the solution
Right.
and be a problem solver. So that's basically what these 7 habits are about. I have some other slides here that I don't want to spend too much time on, but I want to get to this because this is very important. And you mentioned this, putting first thing first is key for time management, understanding the priorities. So Dr. Covey mentions that these two on top are important. And some are urgent, like you have to do it now. It's like putting fires out. You don't have time to, there's no time to be wasted. But most people are so focused on things that are coming up right now that you get burned. You get frustrated. And so the goal is to spend time here in a preventive mode, and trying to keep things from going to become urgent. So the best way to do this is like spending at least 1 hour, for our business, what we do, a minimum one phone call a day, one going through one contract a day, evaluating deals and things like that. And these two at the bottom are, this is not important for us, but this is family, friends, co-workers, people that are part of our inner circle. So it doesn't mean that we don't have time for them. We just have to be conscious not to spend more than we can, because we can lose our focus. And so we want to spend, let's say, 80% of the time here, 10% of the time here in the urgent, putting fires out, and then we have a 10% extra for others, for family members or really relatives, and better, because family members should be here.
Right.
And the fourth quadrant is, there's no time for this. I mean, yes, you have time to relax, you have time to play and enjoy life, but that should be scheduled with a time frame that we're not gonna go too much into it.
Right. Absolutely.
And Dr. Covey brings this as an example. What happens in the Bermuda Triangle?
Slide right down. Yeah.
Airplanes and boats get
Oh,
lost,
yeah,
right?
awesome. Yes, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this is like a like a slide. When you are here too much, when
Yep.
you're putting out fires all the time,
Yep.
you get burned. You get frustrated. And what do? We slide down to
I was
this
gonna say, yeah,
fourth
slide right down.
quadrant.
Yep, yep, yep.
See? So
Yep.
that's what happens. We end up hiding. People are calling us, text messaging. Hey, are you okay? Hey, I haven't seen your videos. I haven't seen you active. What happens? Because there's frustration. That happens. But what we need to do is just get back to the basics. Remember our mission. Remember what was the end in mind that we started, and we can't give up. Never, never, ever quit.
Right.
So it's always a next day, it's always a new beginning, and just come back to your family members and friends, and build your business, and work towards getting the accomplishments that you're looking for.
Right. Yeah. Go back to the basics, I always say.
Exactly. Go back to the basics. And that's exactly what Dr. Covey says. Sharpen the saw. Go back to the basics, back to the beginning, and start all over.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
we just can't get comfortable. You can get comfortable for a little bit of time, but not too long.
I get complacent. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I think this is a really good episode. It helps me, help you in the past, and we always go back to this because we just can't get enough. And Dr. Covey recommends teaching others, because the more we teach, the more we learn, and we apply into our day-to-day,
Absolutely.
life.
No, absolutely. No, it's funny. It's been so long since I was taught this initially, and it's always great to get a recap of it, just to sort of, run it through my head again, if you will. So it's great to always talk about it and discuss it with people and whatnot. I love talking to leadership and whatnot, so it's always helpful.
Right. And sharing is caring. So this is not just for you. You're gonna be sharing this with our community,
Right.
and it's gonna help a lot of people to get them organized, and understand what's important, and what needs to be our priority.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Keeping the main thing the main thing.
Yes. Yeah. You got to keep that focus, definitely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, hey, I appreciate it again.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you too. I appreciate your help, and
Yeah.
let's keep going, man. This is just getting better and better.
Yeah, and hopefully, if anybody has questions, they can definitely reach out to us like always. Send us any questions on the book or any questions on the podcast or anything. Feel free to reach out to us. See
Excellent.
you
Thank you,
next.
Shane.
Thanks. Bye bye.